Welcome to the Ultimate Bloons TD6 strategy series, where I'm going to be showing you strategies for every single tower from the Dart Monkey to the Beast Handler and every single path in between. This will show you how to diversify your setup and get better, along with seeing some stats, tips and tricks, and all of the strategies for every single one of the towers. And although that the series is geared more towards Chimps mode, this will also show you a lot of tips and tricks that apply to the standard game and will allow you to win with a new style. So moving on to the next Dart lane, we have the middle path, which has the M.A.D, the Rocket Storm, and the Hydra Rocket Pods. These are all very different towers, so let's get right into them. The Hydra Rocket Pods isn't really used. I find there's other towers that are better. The Rocket Storm has mid-game pierce and mid-game burst damage, kind of interesting, and the M.A.D just like destroys all Moabs and doesn't do anything else besides that. So looking at the stats, the Hydra Rocket Pods, it's just something that I find like a lot of stuff does directly better. There's no point in just getting a Hydra Rocket Pods to have it. The Rocket Storm, on the other hand, does have a lot of things that you can use in the mid game. It has the effects of the Rocket Storm itself, but also the ability, which is a pretty interesting one that you can use to clutch up in sometimes. And the M.A.D just does a lot of damage to Moabs and nothing really to ceramics. It kind of can deal with ceramics a little bit when you have the ability up, but you only have the ability up for a little bit, and even then it doesn't do a whole lot. So for the cross path, you either want to get 1-3-0 or 2-3-0 if you need the laser shock for the early game, or you could go for a 0-3-2. Now the thing about this is that you can see there, if we have the 0-4-2, the Rocket Storm ability goes into nowhere land. So if you have the Rocket Storm, you always want the top cross path, and then that goes to for like the M.A.D too. So 1-4-0, 2-4-0, or 2-5-0, or 1-5-0, whichever. You only get laser shock if you need it for the early game. Otherwise, you could get an 0-3-2 if you need that there. So generally, in most terms, you're going to be getting top path. Now for the buffs, you definitely want a Berserker Brew for the tier 3 and tier 4. And then when we get the M.A.D, a lot of times like you don't really need support for it. You just need something to deal with the ceramics. So just like a bunch of ceramic support. And for maps, it's good on. You don't want blockers, and you need the Rocket Storm to be able to do well. And some straight lines is also pretty nice. The M.A.D doesn't really care a whole lot about straight lines because it just needs to hit the Moabs, and they have a big hitbox. Now for the heroes, really any hero would work. If you're doing M.A.D, you might want something that will clean up the ceramics very well, like Etienne will do that, Sai maybe even, just something to deal with the ceramics would work. But if you're using it for like the mid game, it should work just fine in any other case. So now its strengths is that it has great pierce, mid-game capabilities, and the M.A.D just eats Moabs. The weakness is that the M.A.D can't kill ceramics, and it needs micro for full power. It doesn't rely on micro as much as like the plasma accelerator, but it just will help out a little bit. So our objectives is to look at Rocket Pods early game, Rocket Storm mid game, and the M.A.D late game. I know I said that Hydra Rocket Pods doesn't really get used a whole lot, but I decided I'm going to check it out in this video. It's not like it's unusable like all things except a few towers, but there's just things that tend to be a lot better, but we'll still check it out because why not? We'll have something to do with that. So we're just going to get, for this M.A.D here, we're going to be going for an early game. We're going to get Etienne down. That will allow us to clean up ceramics with the UCAV, which will be pretty nice. And I'll find this kind of straight line-ish to get that. So the Dartling Gunner, if you have a straight line, it will be very effective in the early game. I'm just going to get something to kind of clean up a little bit because it may not be effective until we get a few cross paths and the ALK buff up. I'll grab that sniper up to lead just to be able to beat round 28, which is nice, and the 1-0 will be able to clean up any random leaking balloons. Now I can get this Dartling Gunner up. So as I mentioned before, the laser shock is only really going to be effective in a way for the early game. It's not like you're going to have laser shock doing a whole lot in the late game. So if you need that help in the early game, you can get it. It's only like $700 if that doesn't really affect you too much. Otherwise, you just get 1-3-0. And you definitely need the focus firing, or else the Rocket Storm ability is literally just going to go nowhere. It's much better than having the Pierce. If you don't really need that, you could get Pierce, I guess. So anyways, we just out buff that, and that's doing very well. You can take it off the target targeting, so you can like micro down for round 40, and it should take out round 40 pretty well. Just the tier 2 with an Alec buff is great against that. I'm gonna get just like a M.A.D up because this guy's gonna be more focused at like taking out the Bloons, not really the Moabs in the mid game. So we'll get the M.A.D up. I'll get the Hydro Rocket Pods up first so we can actually beat like round 47 and round 49, and it's gonna be doing very well. It's gonna take out the ceramics with ease, especially with the straight line. The line that we have here for this advanced map isn't the longest. It's going to be better if you can find like a longer, straighter line. That means it's going to like fall off a lot more on those expert maps where even if you do get a straight line, it's not really going to be that long at all, and it might not even affect the entire map. So just got to keep that in mind. I'm going to get that main Moab. We're going to Alec buff that too. We're doing just fine, and then we'll grab another sniper up there just to have like a bouncing bullet. We'll have a maim and bouncing bullet combination. I'm going to take it all the way to elite sniper, because if we are going for M.A.D, that is a big save up, and we need to be conscious about our money spending. So we'll just need to keep that in mind. And I'm going to then get the Rocket Storm, and we can use that ability in conjunction with our hero ability like the UCAV, and that will work out very well. The UCAV and Rocket Storm are both pretty similar abilities. Well, you won't necessarily have the UCAV if you have a different hero. Just whatever hero you have, their abilities usually will work out pretty well. Just be like actually a little conscious though what hero you're bringing, because you need something to help for the mid game. It is hard in the mid game too, and being able to clean up ceramics is nice, but you really need to watch out for the mid game at most, because it is a big save up, and big save ups can be pretty tricky. But the Rocket Storm ability will indeed come in clutch on some tricky rounds. It's just that it won't be all the way uptime, so having your hero deal with the rest is pretty nice. So we'll have that taken care of, and a lot of these rounds that I'm going to be speeding by here aren't really that big of an issue, nothing to worry about. Anyways, I guess I'll talk a little bit more about Rocket Storm now. In the meantime, you can just use it and throw it in your defense to make a save up for another tower. It's not like you necessarily have to go for M.A.D. It's pretty effective in other situations. It's more like kind of in between a carry and like add pierce. It doesn't really deal that great against mobs unless the ability is active. There, it will be able to deal with mobs very, very easily. As you can see there, it kind of just chewed through that big wave of Moabs. And it can also take out the big ceramic rushes, which is really nice. It won't be able to completely solo round 63 though, so you can just have to keep that in mind. But other than that, it's a great way if you need something to deal with the ceramics and take out like the 76, 78 rushes, and maybe just like a little bit of damage on around 75 might be needed. It's a pretty good option that you can look into, so very nice and neat. It will struggle once the super ceramics come in, of course, so we're going to be using our UCAV and the ability at the right time so we don't like die there. That UCAV came a little bit too late there, but then I just used Rocket Storm for the next wave, and it's good. And now we can get M.A.D. So it's a big save up, 64k, but once we get it, we need to immediately crank up the ceramic potential. So I'm going to get a snowstorm in there. We're going to get the primary training up, so that's going to be good. And we're going to need more than this, because I didn't really expect it to fall that immediately, but yeah, we only really have the ability to pop ceramics at this point, so need to crank it up even more. I get a balloon impact, have that snowstorm, but luckily we don't have to deal with Moabs, so we're good. If you can kind of squeeze in it, a balloon solver would just like rip up everything, but I don't really have the money to buy a balloon solver in whole unless I want to die to a bunch of super ceramics, so I just get some other stuff. I'm going to grab a Spalls with an Alec buff there in case like a ceramic even leaks past my impact and snowstorm, and we'll be good. You can also use the M.A.D ability. You might get pierce capped on round 98, so that M.A.D ability like so will come in clutch. Use Etienne's UCAV 2, that will clean up everything nice and easy. Round 100 will be easy. I'm gonna win with like 43k cash spare, so that's kind of the M.A.D. It's an odd tower, very odd one. You go from killing ceramics to like not doing anything to ceramics, so it's a big switch. Kind of can be a bit tricky, but it is a fun tower to use. I wouldn't really recommend using it on harder maps. You probably want to bring that guy out on some easier maps. Anyways, let's take a look at a fun little new perspective and checking out the Hydro Rocket Pods in the mid game just to add some Pierce. Or I guess the early game too. Well, the early game, if you're using Dartling Gunner, mostly consists of just the tier 2 with an Alk buff, which is very effective for its cost. I don't really see most of the time, I guess, people using like the tier 2 with an Alk buff and then bringing that into a tier 3. It is something that's actually pretty good. It's gotten a lot better because a lot of these towers have got recent buffs. The laser cannon is a lot better than it used to be, so you might be able to see like putting in a laser cannon for the mid game. It's just that these things completely fall off after about round like 60-ish. They'll help a little bit until round 80, but then after round 80 they're just like going to be useless. So it's not like these guys are going to be permanent solutions. They're just going to be something cheap that will allow you to save up into something big, and if you can do that, then you're going to be using it correctly. You aren't going to be like spamming all of these guys just to do some damage and then immediately fall off because you have no damage, because they don't like build well into the later rounds. So we're just going to get this guy, we'll get that village up there, discount to save some cash, and then Alk buff that and the tier 2, and it's going to destroy. I'm going to get an 032 because I'm not getting the tier 4. I don't really need that for the ability. Just got to do a little bit of micro on round 40, and that's fine. And then I'm going to get that 032. So this is going to deal with the ceramics quite well. Just the ceramics and other balloons, all that other stuff. Won't really do anything to Moabs, so I'm going to go for a Dark Knight, and we'll be saving up for the Dark Champion. This is a pretty easy map, so it's not going to be like crazy difficult, but the Dark Champion is a pretty big save up, so it has some good potential and effectiveness, as you would notice. Anyways, also again for the cross path, I'm only getting 032 because the spread, it is pretty nasty, but the spread still affects like everything, kind of because this map like loops around a bit. If it was one straight path, the spread would be awful and the projectiles at the front wouldn't even be hitting the target, so in that case I'd still get 130, but because I can, I might as well just grab that little extra Pierce because the spread isn't going to hurt me too much. But it is doing quite well. Oben and the Dark Knight and the Hydro Rocket pods are seeming to take out everything pretty well. Round 63 might have gotten like a little close, but it was taken out. It didn't get past the Dartling Gunner. I'll place that wall of trees and I'll just speed everything up. So the strategy's going pretty well. I wouldn't really take this on advanced maps, to be honest. I mean, some of the easier ones you could do it and it would work out quite well, but if you want to try it out on like an intermediate map, it might work out just fine. Something like this, just throwing it into a tower that has a bunch of good Moab damage. Maybe we'll struggle with ceramics a bit, and like ceramics than just like large clusters of balloons, and it will work out because we're playing this greedy and we didn't really spend much, started saving up early. I'm going to be able to get this Dark Champion very, very early, so before round 80, I believe, by the looks of it. Yep, right before round 80, and then we're going to be absolutely shredding everything else. Our Dartling Gunner's no longer going to be doing anything, but we have a Dark Champion, so who cares? Everything's gone. Anyways, that's kind of just the idea. It's a pretty cool tower they might use. You could even take that save up. It could push through round 80 just fine, maybe a bit through round 81 and get the M.A.D if you want. Actually, no, wait, you'd have to go more like to 83 because you need to get Rocket Storm. You could still probably get M.A.D with this, but kind of simple. I just finished it off by parrying the Dark Champion with a Cripple Moab. That's going to be allow me to deal with 100 and make like round 98 a bit easier. That was actually a 502 cripple. Could have spent the rest of this money on some support, but Cripple Moab and Dark Champion will be able to take out everything. Anyways, that's the tower. It's pretty interesting. It's very odd. All the paths do just different things, so that's
Thanks for watching. If you want to help out the channel, you can check out these new videos, like and subscribe for more content, support the channel by becoming a member, and joining the Discord to chat with the community. Bye!